Miss Shirley, you have the sign-up sheet as well. Thank you. There's 22. 22. Okay, we're calling the meeting to order. We're going to start it off with prayer. Representative Mathnick, would you please lead us in prayer?
I'd be delighted to. Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, thank you. Heavenly Father, I just thank you for everybody that's here today, that we arrived safely and soundly, and I just bless each member of this committee that we will make wise decisions and hear with clear ears. In your name, I just bless this day. Amen.
Before we get started, just a few ground rules. But first, how many we have from Georgia? Good. Anybody outside of the state, would you please raise your hand? And you're welcome too. Thank you for being here. We're going to have about 2 minutes each. And what we would like to do as we start this, this will be our last meeting for the year. But what we would like to do is, if there's any repetitiveness, please just, if you get nervous and you keep thinking you're going to say the same thing over and over, just say, okay, that's it. Because we've done the same thing and we know how that goes too. So, but again, thank each and every one of you for being here. And we look forward to hearing from you. And I would like to ask those of us who sit up here to please keep an open mind. And about this, I know some of us may not agree with certain things, but still keep an open mind so that we make a decision based on what we hear and of the evidence that's given to us. So with that said, the first name that we have is Brad Miller. Is Brad here? Okay, Brad. You want to come to the center? Huh? Oh, I'm sorry. The podium, he says. It's working. That's why.
It's working. Okay. Gotcha. Well, thank you guys for having this meeting and letting us come here to talk about how Kratom has positively impacted our lives. I've been chronically ill for 30 years. When I was 11, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, an extremely severe case. And at the age of 12, I had my entire colon removed. And since then, I've had 20 abdominal surgeries. I've had 50 hospital stays. And I've had hundreds and hundreds of doctor's visits. And I use Kratom to help with pain relief, with fatigue, and I've used it in the past to also help to alleviate opioid pain pill withdrawal symptoms when I was cut off by my doctor. I was cut off not because I abused any drug or used it in a wrong way. I was cut off because he didn't feel comfortable any longer prescribing chronic pain medicine because of the regulatory environment. And I think that's something in this discussion is not being talked about, is chronic pain patients who are falling through the cracks of the medical system. Our pain management system is looking more and more like the criminal justice system. Chronic pain patients have to go every single month. That's very expensive, and also it takes a lot of time. And people have to open up their medical lives to bureaucrats and God knows who else as well. And what they're going to do with that information, we have no idea. And people also are forced to pee in a cup as well. Like you've been a convicted criminal and forced to do so because they don't trust your relationship with you and your doctor. So I've been through that. Thank God I found Kratom when I was cut off recently from pain medicine, because I've had withdrawal symptoms before from pain medicine being cut off, and it's absolutely horrible. And with Kratom being legal, I was able to eliminate 95 to 99% of those withdrawal symptoms, and on top of that, it helps with my chronic pain. So I think that's an important thing to realize, is that there's people out there, millions of chronic pain patients, who are being left behind. By keeping Kratom legal, not only are you defending individual liberty, which I think is at the heart of this, but you're also throwing a lifeline to millions of people who are suffering, and not from the fault of their own, but from the hand that they were dealt, that they're carrying a burden of physical suffering that those who haven't experienced cannot comprehend. And that suffering extends from individuals to also their families as well. So I'm asking you to keep Kratom legal, not only for myself, but the others, thousands of Georgians who rely on that to live a better life. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today. Now, would you disagree with the age limit on somebody who can get it over the shelf?
Personally, I don't know enough about that to make a decision on that. As far as an age limit goes, I know it's
like 18 or 21 or something.
That
like
would be, I think, I'm a free market guy.
Would that be a legitimate kind
Personally, I'm a free market guy. I think the parents should make that call as far as education of their children, and it should be the responsibility of children until kids are of age to make decisions on their own.
All right,
That's my personal take.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, too, for being here. I have a question. How long have you been on Kratom, or you use it?
Over the last 2.5 years, off and on.
Okay. Where do you buy it?
I buy it online from Urban Organics. It's Urban Ice Natural Organics is the website.
Okay, so that's maybe a more, I hate to use the word legitimate. That's
I think
not
it's
what
the
I'm
largest
trying to say.
vendor, or one of the largest vendors out there for Kratom. And
tell me about your dosage, and how did you arrive at a dosage?
Well, I did a ton of research online before I ever took this, and it had to do a lot with the documentarian Chris Bell, who came out with A Leaf of Faith. It's a fabulous documentary I recommend to everybody to watch. And he was on the Joe Rogan podcast Experience, and he talked about that, and he talked about the science, and he talked about how it's helped so many people. And from that, I did my own research. And dosage just has to do with what kind of effect you're looking for. At lower doses, some people have more of a stimulant effect, so it helps with fatigue. At higher doses, you got more of a pain relieving aspect to it. As far as a particular dose, what I do is I make tea. And so I have 2 scoops. I put 2 scoops in. I'm not sure the grams or anything like that, but that's something that I've found very helpful. So I make a tea in the morning, afternoon, and evening, and you put that in, you boil some water, you put it in a cup, and you steep it for 15 minutes. You let it cool down. It tastes absolutely horrible, so I don't see how anybody would choose this as a recreational vehicle.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next is Charles Brooks. Charles, before you start, our policy analyst here, my friend David, he will let you know when there's you have 30 seconds remaining.
I prepared to keep mine under 2 minutes, so we're good.
So you're good. That's good. And I didn't get to tell everybody, I appreciate my good friend Senator Mullis being here. And he helps me out a whole lot in tremendous advice. And so he has been very helpful to all of us in the House. So at this time, go ahead.
My name is Chris Brooks from Kennesaw, and I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I suffer from an incurable disease called myalgic encephalomyelitis, also known as chronic fatigue syndrome, or MECFS. Symptoms include full body pain, brain fog, constant fatigue, flu-like symptoms, unrefreshing sleep, as well as many others. At one point in my illness, I was bedbound for years, wanting to die from the pain and fatigue. There was very little medically the doctors could do for me. In July of 2017, I read about a plant called Kratom, a member of the evergreen family and a cousin of the coffee plant. There were numerous reports of people also suffering from MECFS that were benefiting from Kratom use and experiencing a decrease in symptoms. I had my doubts, but with very few options available to me, I thought I would give it a try. What happened next was amazing. After using Kratom for the first time, I was able to get up out of bed and do some simple chores around the house for a few hours. This might not seem like much to you, but for me it was nothing short of a miracle. I would not be standing in front of you today if it were not for Kratom. It is the most important thing that I take on a daily basis. If I had to get rid of all my supplements and medications available to me, except one, I would keep Kratom. There is no supplement or medication that I know of that can take the place without a host of unwanted long-term side effects. I am not just speaking for myself today. There are tens of thousands of Georgians just like me. I personally know of a couple at my parents' church that have serious health issues, yet they are greeting people and passing out bulletins each Sunday. Honestly, they honestly say they could not do so without Kratom. I've spoken to nurses, police officers, business people, and people from all walks of life that this plant helps. I'm here in front of you today to plead with you to make the right decision for all of us, keeping Kratom legal in the state of Georgia. I want to make a couple of additional comments about the last meeting. Some doctors have made blanket statements that patients are not making them aware of non-pharmaceutical supplements they are taking. That is an incorrect statement. I, for one, have been up front with my doctor about my Kratom usage, and he agreed with my decisions and monitors my health accordingly. I do agree with the ingredient list being on Kratom packages, and I want to know what I'm getting is just Kratom and nothing else. This would keep patients from getting contaminated products that would be harmful. Also agree with Kratom being legal for those not 21 and up, but 18 and up. My thoughts are, if you're considered an adult at 18, you can smoke at 18, you're old enough to serve our country in the armed services at 18, then you're old enough to take Kratom at 18. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. And do you have any questions for me? Thank you.
Next, we have Thomas Hales.
Good. I appreciate your time. Thank you for having this meeting. To let you know who I am, I'm a small shop owner, actually right around the corner in front of Woodruff Park. My shop is Happy Hookah, right in front of Woodruff Park in the old Muses building. I'm also a Kratom user for the last 4 years. The product that we sell, I use myself, and I'm a firm believer if I can't use it myself, then I won't sell it. I back my product 110%. But mainly what I'm here to talk about today is, there's a lot of discussion across the country about banning stuff or regulating it. Well, if we look through history, prohibition has never worked. It lasted 14 years for alcohol, and that was it. It didn't even make a blip in history. And another thing, too, is when we start banning things, as we all know with the Great Drug War from the 80s, it doesn't have the desired effect. Everything that has happened since that war was declared has gone in the opposite direction to the detriment of our society. So if we ban it, we already can see what's going to happen. We're just setting ourselves up for failure if we do that. I know last meeting from the GBI, the chief medical examiner made a statement that there have been no concrete 100% deaths related to kratom by itself. However, in an AJC article almost a year ago, he said, as a matter of fact, there were 2. Something has changed within that year, so you tell me what has happened, but I think we all know. I call it revising by omission, not coming out and saying that it was wrong, but just letting it slide. And another thing that, is rarely talked about in any setting is personal responsibility. We all have personal responsibility to research and treat ourselves as we want to be treated and put in our bodies what we think we need to do. I shouldn't necessarily have to have somebody tell me what's good for me, especially as the previous gentleman said, when you're 18, you can make your own decisions. And finally, because I know my time is short, solutions, 18 and up, that's what it should be. There should be labeling requirements, and there's 2 outstanding universities in the cities that if you supply grants to, I'm sure we could find a way to research and see what the desired effects and outcomes would be. Namely, my own alma mater, Georgia State University, and Emory University over in Decatur. Anybody have any questions for me? All right, thank you. Yes, sir.
What is the average age that comes into your shop?
I would say between 27 and 45.
And the youngest?
The youngest, college students, some on college campus, so 18. Don't have any, Georgia State, there's not a high school really around, so I don't have any underage kids except for maybe people that should be in school and aren't going, but I've never had a problem with it so far.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have Carmen Allen. Carmen Allen. Okay, come on, raise your hand. Who are you? Not here. Okay. Holly Wrigley. Did I say that right, or Ridgely?
First of all, I want to thank everybody for having this second meeting and listening to the concerns of citizens. My name is Holly Ridgely. I'm a nurse practitioner in North Gwinnett County and North Fulton County. And I honestly didn't know anything about Kratom. I have a DEA license. I do not prescribe narcotics. I don't want to play in that world. We find something else for you. I have other tools in my back pocket if you have pain. That being said, in the last few months in summer, more and more of my patients have been saying, I use a product called Kratom. Are you familiar with it? I wasn't. I didn't know anything about it. I actually learned about it from one of my police officer patients. This man has been shot. He cannot take narcotics, and he cannot use THC. Simple as that. He said the Kratom has saved his life. He can work now. It doesn't affect him in any way. So I run into a lot of people with pain management issues. So that's really why I'm here today. I'm here to speak for my patients. We need to do something. I mean, just like the guy that just said, if we take this away from people, we're going to have unintended consequences. And people need to be aware of that. And I'm not used to speaking in front of a group of people at all. I'm usually one-on-one with a patient. And this is a little unnerving to me. But anyway, that's why I'm here today. And I'm open for questions. No? Anybody? No questions? I did. And I kept it under 2 minutes, too. Thanks, guys.
Next we have Marissa Aaron Smith. Thank you.
Thank you for having us here today. I hope you guys had a great holiday. I am actually a medical assistant consultant for Holly Ridgely. And we came here today to share our feelings about this Kratom controversy that's occurring. And basically to just share a little bit about the problem, obviously, that we know we're facing is it can be, one, sold anywhere, which needs to stop, honestly. The documentation on the Kratom labels need to be completely thorough, just as if you walk into a Whole Foods and you see a B12 bottle. I've taken pictures of numerous supplements that have full information on it, and I think that any company or organization that doesn't supply that should be shut down. They just shouldn't be able to sell Kratom. I think we should minimize who can sell the Kratom, honestly, which will allow us to keep a tighter hold on what type of Kratom is being sold. I've just recently went to a gas station. I found 7 different types of Kratom, and 4 of those had no labels on the back. I made the gas station attendants aware that we're coming here today to fight this, and that they're probably going to have their stuff pulled at some point. So they can fight with us, or they can continue to take in what is not really benefiting the state. Something about myself, pretty much, I take Kratom myself. I've been taking it for about 6 months now. I would call it a supplement, and I think that's the best way to word it, because the fight that we're fighting is almost like a losing battle against the pharmaceutical industry, because their goal, obviously, to patent the Kratom ingredients is fine, whatever they want to do with it, but that's not our fight. That's not our reasoning here. Our reasoning here is to keep the Kratom available to us in our state of Georgia, so people like you and I can have that decision to use it safely and make good judgment calls when using it. I use it for, 1, narcolepsy. I was diagnosed with that when I was 8 years old. I have cataplexy, and I have insomnia. I'm a candidate here for thousands of narcoleptics who have this, and literally I use to stay awake along with other supplements. I continue taking the medication I've been prescribed, and I pay attention to the dosing. I know exactly how much I need. I know exactly how long it stays in the body. I've done the full research on everything about Kratom. So I'm going to stop right there and see if anybody has any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here.
Sure.
We appreciate everybody being here so that we can make some wiser decisions, as I prayed earlier. When you said minimize who can sell, expound on that and give me an idea of how you would control that and who. I'd just like to hear what you might think.
Okay, so I have, 1, the condition that I have should surely speak for someone that will know how to control this product, as far as know exactly how long it stays in the human body, because that's what I take or use of other pharmaceutical drugs, just literally stay awake. So I would like to say that you disregard any gas stations, take it out of smoke shops, because it's really not it's a profit, but it's not a massive profit. They can profit off of many other things. But the point is, we're just trying to not basically insult the actual medicinal herb, because we're basically insulting the power of it by allowing it to be sold anywhere. And I just think that's part of the issue. You have fathers, mothers who are losing their children, who are coming out of rehabilitation, who need more than just Kratom, but they're trying to find another way. So they hear about it and they just resort to taking it without knowing what to do or how the effects will happen, regardless if they take that or Tylenol. Doesn't matter. Something's going to happen. So you pull it out of smoke shops, you pull it out of gas stations, you shut down basic sites that aren't giving thorough feedback, because I found several sites that will offer forms of documents of authenticity. When you purchase the Kratom, they'll show the process that it goes through when it enters the state. It shows how it's broken down. It'll give you a full feedback. Also, what's not being stated is that Kratom is not just used for pain. The supplement is able to be used for a stimulant. It allows you to think clearly. There are several supplements at Whole Foods that do the same thing, but a lot of people aren't aware of it. So this is the one we're fighting right now. But basically, you create a website. I'm offering to create this website with you guys. This website will be broken down into tiers that focus on people who are subjects that have been meth addicts or had serious addictions. And you have to legally put your credit card number into the system. You have to put your name in there, and you'll be liable if the information is incorrect. You'll have people that pretty much, it'll be a survey. It'll pretty much revert you to what's the best product for you. You would have a nurse practitioner on board. I have chiropractors willing to be on board for this. You should take people who take Kratom, and that will allow you to minimize, the website itself would allow you to minimize the type of Kratom that's coming through, because you're shutting down the rest of the system, and the fact that I don't want anything bad to happen to me, it shows you I would fight to make sure it stays in a healthy manner. I know for a fact that it hasn't been addressed that Kratom has to be kept in a certain state in order for it to not create bacteria, which hasn't been really spoken about on any websites except for maybe a few I just came out and found out about. I can provide you with that documentation after this, but it shows that the packaging has to stay completely sealed. If it doesn't stay within a certain temperature, that it can go bad. A lot of people will take it and put it into a tea form, and they'll put it in the refrigerator. I drink it as a tea. It's really honestly not that bad, but then again, if it's helping me, I put some honey in it. It's fine. But it needs to be kept in a certain state. Otherwise, salmonella will enter the package. You can create bacteria through almost anything if you don't keep things sealed. That's not addressed on labels. It's not addressed in stores. I think that if you're going to leave it into a store, you put it into something, not saying Whole Foods is the best place. You put it into a homeopathic doctor's office. You put it into a grocery store that is a nutritional store that all the people who work in that store are completely informed of the product so they can share it with people and they know how to instruct them.
Thank you. Can I have a follow-up question?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman? When you said that you mix it with other supplements, are you talking about prescribed medications, or are you talking about a vitamin or another mineral? What are you?
Okay, so I know that you can take, I don't personally do it because I haven't done that yet, but I'm a research advocate. I do that, it's my passion. So I know that common sense tells me you can take Kratom and you can mix it with another natural supplement. Now, there's several supplements out there, but you have to break it down. I would have to sit down and go through that. Now, I take Adderall on a daily basis. The side effects to that is so detrimental and just harmful that I already know that my lifespan has been cut in half if I continue on that track, along with many other people. And I know the pharmaceutical industry, that's not their concern. That's that world, and that's going to stay that world. I understand that. So it's up to me as an individual citizen to make the right steps to dose out what I feel is necessary. And since I feel I'm really knowledgeable and experienced in that area, I could help other people. So I'll take Kratom by itself. I won't mix it with anything else yet, even though I know that you can. I know that it stays 4 to 5 hours in the human body, and upper, which is considered a white vein of the leaf. Several plants are sold in different countries, and it depends what country it comes from. I've been on GHB, which is literally a pharmaceutical grade of, I hate to say it, the date rape drug, which is used for people who have narcolepsy to put them to sleep. So we have a supplement that can interact and take the place of that, and that is the red vein of this leaf. It will last in the body 6 hours. Now, just like anything else, you have to use wise decisions, but the benefit of this plant is your body naturally is supposed to, if it rejects something, the side effects of rejection to your body is a fever, a upset stomach, throwing up, diarrhea. That's just common sense to what the human body is supposed to experience. But we don't see anything past that with this. So I would take that all day long. Now, I know I don't want to become addicted to anything, whether it's soda or Adderall, because I take more than I'm supposed to take sometimes. I've taken up to 100 milligrams prescribed by a doctor, at 16 years old, and I knew that was bad, so I had to start removing it from my body. The Kratom, I know that I've already experienced taking the red vein, which has put me into a very, very deep sleep. And I know that the feeling, if you take too much of it, the feeling of not being comfortable within your own skin, just like if you take 2 Tylenol and you're like, well, that works, so let's take 5 Tylenol. But there's no regulation on it, and so that shouldn't be a situation. If you're going to sell those things on the market and allow people to make the decisions, then this should stay that way. But obviously we need to label it so it's not fighting against the DEA or the FDA or the pharmaceutical. Let them have their fight, but let us, in this state, keep it the way it's supposed to be kept, so you guys have the option to take it at some point, or we can do a little more research. I'm willing to, if you guys can find a grant, or if you guys want to offer a grant, I'm willing to do the research with Holly. I'll offer my time to do that so we can have better information, because if you ban it, we all know that you can't ban a supplement and then do the research. It doesn't work that way. Like, you can't, they just won't do that. It'll just sit. So it's like, I don't want to step on their toes. I'm sure they don't want to, well, I don't know if they want to step on our toes, but anyways, I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
One last question, unless you have anything. How long did it take you to determine the proper amount for you to take?
25 minutes in one day.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I just wanted to end this and just say that there's nothing in this world that can find its way, or that can't find its way into a human death. So whether it be Kratom, soda, water, it's bound to happen. But you guys are the ones who are fighting for us. So it's now that we have this time to be able to choose wisely how we want to list it, so they're not coming at us trying to take it away without knowing anything about it, really. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Michael Komorowski. Thank you. That's what I was going to say, Michael.
Originally not from Georgia, but I love it here. Georgia's 5th state that I've lived in now. I am by day, a train inspector for Class 1 Railroad, actually right here in serves the Atlanta area. I went to the Ready Center here for 6 weeks of training. Been doing that most of my life. Get drug tested randomly and frequently. I've been taking Kratom for about 10 years now. I've butchered my 6-minute speech to allow other people to get a chance to speak. I want to just jump in and say what I say is in my own opinion. I am a member of the AKA, and I thank them for their support. I also want to thank Shirley Spencer for dealing with my barrage of emails and phone calls. I definitely appreciate that, and I appreciate you. Thank you. I appreciate all of you for being here, coming in here today during the holiday season, and I appreciate you also for the last meeting we had with taking the time after the meeting. I got to speak to a couple of you, and it was great to know that you actually listen and care to hear what we have to say. As I said, by day I'm a railroader. By night, I guess you could say I'm a small time vendor of Kratom. I really serve basically close friends and family of mine. I'm an advocate for sure. I buy my Kratom in bulk. I have intentions in the future of being hopefully this year, a small business owner in the Savannah area to open like a brick and mortar type store, not anything to do with a head shop or smoke shop, but to sell Kratom as a tea and also other products like kava. It's a growing social trend in progressive cities. St. Petersburg, Florida, to be like the #1 in the United States. It's very community-based, brings unity to the community, People go there, they can drink tea, relax, not worry about getting a DWI, not being impaired. It's a social lubricant like alcohol, but unlike alcohol, no one's leaving there in a state of mind that would lead them to any trouble with the law or on a personal basis. I hope to do that in the future only if Kratom stays legal. And I really, really appreciate you guys hearing us out here today. Let me just jump around real quick. I want to say that it's pretty well known now. I hope you all do watch that documentary, A Leaf of Faith, on Netflix. So far to date, it's probably the best informational material you can watch to get an idea of what we're dealing with here from all different opinions and all different views. But in my opinion, in my view, Kratom is safe. Unadulterated, pure leaf Kratom is safe. You should know that, number one, it's safe. Number two, it's not killing people. No one's dying from it. Number three, it's actually helping people. It really is. I don't know what the deal is with Scott Gottlieb and the FDA. I know if you can do a quick Google search on him, he did make a lot of money from pharmaceutical company investments. There seems to be a link there. If you go on Twitter and read his tweets, he definitely has a vendetta against Kratom. That's my opinion, wrong. I ask you guys, as senators, congressmen, representatives, politicians to be, please listen to what we're saying. Spread the word in Washington. Let your other colleagues know what you've learned, what you're hearing. I agree. It should not be available to children and marketed in such a way. No problem with that. Definitely agree with that. My Kratom vendor is a farmer in Indonesia, employs several people in his town. I can video access him right now. He can show me his facility. It's clean. There was a man here at the last meeting, brought several packages of Kratom up here, wanted a full-out ban on it, and said a lot of things I believe are false. There's no chickens running around his facility. There's no children playing in diapers around it. I speak to him on a daily basis. I plan to visit his facility real soon. And, that whole stigma that he was trying to present, it's just wrong. It's wrong. My Kratom is also tested. I bring it here, and my farmer knows it. I send it to a lab in Oregon. I have it tested regularly, and for 8 years, it comes back pure, clean. There's no contamination. It is what it is, and I make sure it is, because I'm the one passing it online to other people. So, I have no problem with laws pertaining to ingredients and saying it is what it is, but so far, I just ask you to follow the science, as the AKA says. Know that Kratom is not a bad thing. And I also would venture to say, if you do ban Kratom, I would wonder that you wouldn't see a rise in people maybe going back to addictive substances, addictive drugs, opiate-based overdoses perhaps may rise, and that's not a good thing. This stuff's been around for hundreds of years. Yeah.
Thank you, Michael.
All right.
Anybody have any questions?
I've got a quick question for him.
Okay.
Perfect. Michael, thank you very much. I just want to make sure I understand. Did I understand correctly? I think I understood the business model you're suggesting you may open later in the year is somewhat similar to a coffee house, like we would think of, except using Kratom tea substances.
Yes,
coffee,
correct.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's something we as a committee may want to keep in mind as we're thinking about how we may or may not look at where this could be sold. If we've got potential businesses like that opening up, it could be important to keep in mind. Thank you.
All right. Again, if you want to look at any models, St. Petersburg, Florida probably has about 24 of them.
Okay.
Austin, Texas.
Selling Kratom specifically?
In a bar-like setting, but no
Yeah.
alcohol being served, just Kratom tea, kava, which is also, it's made into a tea. It's a very relaxing thing. It's been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years. No one's ever died from that, but it doesn't provide opiate withdrawal, benefits, so it's probably why the FDA hasn't gone after that.
Got it. Thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I do want to make reference, going back to the earlier speaker and the speaker here, about distribution, where it's being sold. I hope that my colleagues do not get confused, because there is, with a broad paintbrush on head shops, that has a very negative connotation, but there are various distribution places that are legitimate places, good business people, provide a good environment. And when we hear that thrown out, head shop, or where we should sell it, even at someone mentioned about a gas station, well, gas stations are convenience stores, and they're beginning to provide even more products. And so when we start talking about banning or which distribution centers can sell it, I just hope we be real cautious on that, because we're already talking about a problem that's not a problem, but it's being created as if it's a problem. And so let's be caution here, or let's caution ourselves not get too far out. Oh, we got this big problem with Kratom, and I'll get into it a little later, Mr. Chair, about as it relates to deaths and stuff from the GBI reports. But as we talk about distribution centers, I believe in free enterprise. I believe people should be able to operate a legitimate business and not be painted with a broad brush. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next, we have Darcy Olson. Hey, Darcy. Just come to the podium. Tell us who you are. That's all right. You did good.
Hey, so thank you everybody for having me here. My name is Darcy Olson, and I'm a resident of Atlanta. And I'm just gonna kind of read from the email that I sent Representative Caldwell, because I didn't prepare anything otherwise. So I strongly support Kratom being legal and regulated appropriately. I agree with Representative Hills? Jones, I'm sorry. Okay. Well, either way, I agree with what you're saying about the availability, as long as it's regulated properly. But I wanted to share my input because I feel that I have a somewhat unique or valuable, in my biased opinion, valuable set of circumstances and experiences that lend credibility to my opinion of Kratom. So I'm a social worker. I have a master's degree in social work from Georgia State, and I worked for Fulton County DFACS for 4 years. I was a supervisor in child protective services. Right now I'm working with a play therapy group, but I was in the public sector for a while. So I've worked with many families affected by substance abuse. I've seen heroin and crack and all those things, meth, and I've seen the devastation it can have on families, and I can see the difference between that and Kratom, especially during the opiate epidemic we have in our country right now. And the thing that gives it a little more credibility, in addition to my professional stance, is my personal stance, because not only have I worked with drug addicts and people affected by it, I have a family history of drug addiction. My mother passed away in 2012 from health conditions indirectly linked to drug abuse. She lived and died as an opiate addict. I think if she had had Kratom as an option to help her manage pain and get off of OxyContin, things might have been a little bit different. But also, my boyfriend has chronic health issues that on most days he's in pain, and he takes Kratom regularly. And I love seeing that he has that option, because the doctors would throw Percocet at him all day, and he could take it, and he could become addicted, he could have health issues, but he has Kratom, and it's very effective. I know that also because I, several years ago, was prescribed opiates for a pain situation, and I was addicted myself. And I spent 5 or so years of my life on and off as an opiate addict. I've been off for a while now. I'm doing great, but oh my gosh, if I had Kratom then as an option to ease the withdrawals and to ease my pain, it would have been a lot easier. So personally, professionally, I've seen it. I've seen what's bad. I've seen what's good, and Kratom is something that's good for us.
Thank you. Any questions? From okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is that what has you so happy? I mean, you just, this time of morning, you just happy. I mean, is it Kratom?
I did take a little bit this morning, but no, I've been described as having perma-smile. I think that's a good thing. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just so everyone knows, I did make contact with the FDA, but they're on furlough right now, so they couldn't make it. But they said they look forward to the future, so we'll see. Next, we have Joe Turner. I had a good friend named Joe Turner.
How's everybody doing today?
Thank you, Joe.
First, I'd like to thank everyone for giving us the time to speak, tell our stories. My name is Joe Turner. I'm from LaGrange, Georgia. I now live in the North Georgia mountains in the town of Blairsville. I've been a consumer and advocate for about 4 years. I started using Kratom for pain and the depression that came along with it. After years of military, commercial fishing, warehouse work, construction, my body had taken a beating. And I prided myself on the aches and pains that I collected over the years as they were reminders of my accomplishments. I was brought up on the phrase, hard work pays off, so it was a rarity for me to ever take the easy road. I chose jobs that were both physically and mentally challenging. As the years went by, the pains and the unexpected, the pains that I experienced got to an almost unbearable level. My work productivity, sorry y'all, this has been quite a few years since I've gotten in front of a crowd here. My work productivity suffered, leading to financial issues, and that caused serious problems with my marriage. My drug and alcohol consumption was at its highest when my outlook on life was at its lowest. Because I've lost friends and family members to opioids, both illicit and FDA approved, I refused to go to the doctor just to get a prescription for an addiction. The physical and mental pain that I was dealing with pushed me to have thoughts that I'm ashamed of today. No longer able to depend on my body for a living, I had come very close to giving up on it all. One day, a customer of mine who specialized in holistic pain relief noticed me struggling to stand up after kneeling for some time. She then handed me a small glass of green sludge. She said it helped her with the issues she had from living with a brain tumor for several decades. Just to humor her, I turned the glass up and went about my work. About 30 minutes later, I couldn't believe what I was feeling, or wasn't feeling. My pains, the bolt of lightning striking my knees when I've been a certain way, same for my shoulders, my hands, my back, my neck. It felt as if I'd gotten 10 years of my body back. For the first time in years, I was back to working at my normal pace. I experienced no pains while climbing my ladder, no issues with handling 60-pound bags of concrete. I even found myself singing a song instead of stressing about how the bills were going to get paid. From that point on, my life has done nothing but improve. I have regained my love for life. I now run my own business. My wife has back the husband that she married and deserves. And to top it all off, about a month into using Kratom, I unexpectedly and unintentionally lost all desire for alcohol or any other drugs. Ending a 20-year battle with alcoholism and drug addiction, I was content with sobriety for the first time in my adult life. Now, I've used a handful of drugs in my past, and I can tell you Kratom is different. While most drugs give you a high or give you a buzz to distract you from your pains or problems, Kratom is different in that it takes away the negative. It takes away the aches, the pains. If I experience any euphoria at all, it's from the absence of pain, depression, stress, and anxiety. The effect is just as mild on the body as caffeine, a little different. While I use Kratom, I am fully capable of functioning as a productive member of society. I am clean-minded, goal-oriented, and I'm no longer weighed down by the chipped cartilage, busted bones, fractured heels, and the fear of what my future was before Kratom. As you all may be learning through this study, millions of people have gotten their quality of life back with the help of Kratom. From what I've gathered through my own personal experience and the research that I've done, I think that Kratom will make an awesome tool in combating the opioid crisis that we find ourselves in today, not only as a means of weaning off opioids, but to also be a less risky alternative, preventing many from ever having to use opioids at all.
Joe.
Yes.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
We've gone over 2 minutes.
Oh.
And thank you for sharing your life's experience there. That's what we want to hear. But how long have you been using Kratom?
Let's say right at 4 years. going on.
No side effects?
No. Happiness, like I said, got my life back, and
Only good side effects, I should say. Anybody else have a question for Joe? Thank you, Joe.
thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for coming down, being with us. Again, it's a 2-minute time limit, and that leaves a little time for a few questions, so just remember that. And my good friend here will be holding his pencil up like this, so you'll know. Our next guest speaker is a lady from my area, our coroner, Miss Vanita Hullender. Okay. Sometimes the long route is the easiest route.
It is. Don't you start that timer till I get this down to my level. There we go. All right, as y'all know, my name is Vanita Hullender. I'm the coroner in Catoosa County, and I'm the one that brought attention to the Kratom. And I want to start out by saying I want to clarify some things that I've heard in some of the other committee hearings. It's been said that the DEA has changed their opinion on Kratom. That is not true. That is not true. It's just they dropped their legislation. There was such a public outcry that is one of their policies that will cause them to drop a piece of legislation. There was also a lot of letters from some congressmen, and I confronted my congressman because he also wrote one of those letters. He didn't have a clue what I was talking about. So, anyway, the DEA has not changed their opinion that this is safe. It's just they backed off. Also, there's been a lot of saying about the FDA is causing a mass hysteria. They have confused the medical examiners and the coroners. I'd also like to state that I was studying Kratom, and I was giving out warning signs or warnings to people before the FDA ever mentioned Kratom. I'm an intelligent person, so don't insult me like that. I don't believe in the boogeyman. Also, it's been said that we shouldn't regulate this, that the FDA shouldn't be in charge of it because big pharmacy will get involved, the price will go up, and they'll make a lot of money. Well, right now, Kratom is a multi-billion-dollar industry, so we should not be refereeing over who's going to make the money. No, there ain't no way. But what I do want to say is that, you know, addiction is a brain disease. So in this, are we trading one addiction for another? I've heard a lot of people say that this needs to be regulated as far as teenagers, but they're not saying why. All I'm hearing is it's safe. But what I do want to tell you is that there is nothing chemically that can help you in recovery. Is that it?
No, just talk to us.
Okay, so there's nothing chemically that can help keep someone in recovery. Using is a choice. Recovery is a choice. And when you go into recovery, I teach substance abuse. When you go into recovery and you stay there, it's all you. It's all you. And so I hope, you know, I like to know that there's things that can help people out there, but I also feel like it needs to be regulated. And we need to make sure it's safe. But what I want to leave y'all with today is I just had my first death that had mitragynine in the mix. Now, I know I'm going to be asked, Vernon, how many other drugs was in there? There was fentanyl, acetylfentanyl, which is a synthetic of fentanyl. There was heroin, and there was mitragynine. Now, what do I know mitragynine contributed to this overdose? I don't know, but what I can tell you is this was a very seasoned opiate addict. And so they were not using this to rehab. It had to potentiate, or it would not have been in her system. Ladies and gentlemen, with all the this coming into this country unregulated, we are creating a perfect storm. We don't know what's coming in through these packages. We don't know if there's acetylfentanyl in these packages. We don't know if there's carfentanil. We don't know if there is tinazepine in it. We do not know what's coming through. I appreciate the gentleman that has his tested before he'll sell it, but Unfortunately, nobody else is that responsible in this country. And all I want to leave you with is that, you know, we are going to get caught up in this perfect storm. And that tidal wave is going to wash over Georgia because this is not regulated.
Yes, Madam Coroner, thank you so much for coming. Good. I didn't know you were here, so, and I have had an opportunity to get to know you better, and I've enjoyed every moment. You mentioned that you just had a particular case, and you mentioned all these different drugs that were in this person. Which one killed the person?
It was considered a combination of all.
So all the drugs killed the person. Okay, thank you so
It's a
much.
combination of all.
Okay, thank you.
One quick question. On a normal drug test, can you detect kratom?
Not on a routine drug test. It has to be sent out. There is some strips that you can purchase. My daughter uses them at her school, but they're only like 50% to where they can pick it up.
And synthetic drugs that are out there, I'm understanding even those are not detectable. Is that
There's
true?
a lot of them that are not detectable. The drugs, you know, the drug test will pick up if it is a fentanyl or an opiate, but there's a lot of them that does not pick up.
Okay, we have a couple more questions. Number 18.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you spending the time to come. Tell me how you would regulate this, or what do you see as a solution, especially in your profession? Give me one thing that we could do.
What I see as a solution, and I know this is the main argument, nobody wants the FDA to do a study because they said it'll take it off the street for 10 years. And then Big Pharmaceutical will make the money. I can't understand how we can regulate Tylenol, ibuprofen, any over-the-counter pain medicine if we're not going to regulate this also. And I still am not convinced that kratom has any properties that does help, because when you go in, when a medication is studied, it's studied for indications of use, effectiveness, indications, contraindications. Also in that study, some of the people are going to be giving a placebo, which is nothing but a sugar pill. But there's going to be a percentage of those people that got the placebo that's going to swear up and down they got help from it. So with us in a society where we want everything fast, we want everything quick, and we believe a lot of what we read, then people are going to be duped into thinking that this can really help them. Because like I said, addiction is a brain disease. And so you become addicted to the thought that kratom is helping you. And I cannot see this, but my main concern is the way it comes into this country. We don't know what's coming in with it. It is going to be one of the major trafficking agents, in my opinion, for illicit drugs to come into this country. And I still have, concerns about the safety. And like I said, I've heard a lot of talk about, and so far everybody has agreed there should be an age limit on who can buy kratom. So you can't stand here and tell me that kratom is safe and it's not going to hurt you, but you're telling me, well, let's not let the kids get a hold of it. That doesn't make sense to me. I want it studied and I want it regulated. And if it does help, I want it on the market, but I want it on the market the right way. We have a responsibility to protect consumers, and part of that protection is to make sure that they're not getting something that is harmful and that they are informed. If you get an aspirin bottle, it will tell you, do not take more than X amount of aspirin a day. It will tell you it can cause bleeding. Do not take aspirin during pregnancy. It does have all the warnings, but as it is right now, this is so broad. There's so many different companies and agencies that are bringing this stuff in by the truckloads that we can't possibly control it unless it does get in the FDA's hands.
We have one more question. You have any more?
No, thank you.
Representative?
Thank you.
Thank you. One more.
Very quickly, when was the death that you did the report on? Was the autopsy report, the death you just described earlier?
What, I didn't hear
You said there was a death earlier.
Yes.
Was that this year, 2018?
Yes, I just got the autopsy report.
Okay, and I like to get a copy if it's okay, if it's
Okay,
under open
it's a
registry.
matter
Did they have caffeine in them?
Caffeine in their body?
Yes.
I don't think the GBI tests for caffeine.
The autopsy that you did was
No,
caffeine?
I don't do autopsies.
Oh, I thought you said you did an autopsy.
No,
I'm
the
sorry. Okay.
GBI does my autopsies.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vanita.
You're welcome.
Next, we have John Kelly. Just go ahead and bring him up. Thanks, John, for y'all being here. We appreciate it.
All right. Representative Hill, I want to thank you for the opportunity to come and speak. I mentioned I had to get permission, and I'm still waiting for that permission, but I wanted to go ahead and come up here and talk to you guys anyways. Senator Mullis, we sat down and talked a couple years ago, and I appreciate you following up with this. Sure. My name is John Kelly. I'm a center administrator for a day reporting center.
Hey, John, if you don't mind, raise that mic up. There you go. Thank you.
I'm a center administrator for the Day Reporting Center up in Lookout Mountain, part of the Department of Community Supervision. It's an intensive outpatient program. It's one of the steps that we have available for any of those who's going through some type of addiction process. Instead of sending them straight to prison, we're trying to work with them while they're still on the street, still living at home. The focus is on addiction. Kratom first come to my attention. What question? It's part of the Department of Community Supervision. It used to be state level. It used to be probation, parole. They combine. Right. Now, I'm here representing myself today. I'm not representing our department, just so you know that. All right. But Kratom first come to my attention about 3 years ago, and when we found a green substance at one of our participants' house, and we started asking questions. That's when it found out what it was, started doing research, and just throughout time, we've seen how much it's incorporated into our program, that people have started to use it, mostly because they know we cannot test for it. I've got a $35,000 machine that tests urine, but it does not have a reagent for it to test for Kratom because it's not illegal. It's not a controlled substance in the state of Georgia. Once it becomes, they will make that product. They will make that reagent. I brought with me today one of my participants that I wanted him to tell his story on how Kratom has impacted him. If I could turn it over to him. And this would be his 2 minutes. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me today. I'm just going to get right into it and try to cover at least my experiences, and if I run over, just chime in and stop me. I'm an addict in recovery. I have 6 months clean from all substances. I was addicted to opioids for 13 years. I spent 4.5 years going to a methadone clinic and 1 year on Suboxone. The rest of that time, I acquired opioids illegally. So I'm very familiar with the effects that opioids have on the body and mind. I made the decision to get clean in January of 2018 and have a better life. 35 days into my recovery, I started having really strong cravings. So I turned to Kratom because I thought it was a safe alternative and I could obtain it legally. I also wanted to try it because I read that it could help with my anxiety and depression. So I started buying it at convenience stores where I live. I bought a brand that had 75 capsules in a package. These would last me 5 to 6 days. A month into using, those 75 capsules were only lasting about a day and a half. I went from taking 6 capsules twice a day to taking Kratom every 30 minutes. I couldn't even go an hour without thinking about taking a dose. If I went 2 or 3 hours without dosing, the physical withdrawals started. It got so bad that I would have to get up in the middle of the night to dose because I couldn't sleep due to withdrawal symptoms. And when I woke up, I would have to take a dose as soon as my feet hit the floor because my body was aching so bad. This led me to search for a vendor online where I could buy it in bulk. At first, I bought 100-gram packages once a week. This progressed to buying a kilo, 1,000-gram packages every 2 weeks. My daily dose went from 6 grams a day to 50 grams a day within a month. My tolerance increased rapidly, and it was no longer a positive thing for me. It started causing anxiety, depression, and it made my mind foggy to where I couldn't focus on anything. I basically went through the day in a daze like a zombie, just going through the motions. I lost interest in everything except Kratom. It made me want to isolate myself from everything that I once enjoyed in life. At this point, I was hooked, just chasing the opioid-like effects that Kratom produced. If anyone tells you that Kratom doesn't get you high, they are only trying to glorify Kratom and justify their use of it. I know the effects that opioids have on the body and mind, and I can say without any doubts that Kratom is definitely an opioid. Kratom has the same side effects that any other opioid has: itching, sweating, constipation, loss of appetite, insomnia, and even respiratory depression with higher doses. I'd like to share briefly the things I noticed when... Did I go over? Okay.
Yeah.
But
would you please read what you noticed? That would be my question. What did you notice?
what did I notice?
Yeah, you were getting ready to read something there and share
just
with
things
us.
that I noticed from buying. I bought direct from Indonesia. Some of the things I noticed were the conditions which it was produced in was on tarps on the ground with no covering. Some of the buildings it was produced and stored in had dirt floors with no. When it was stored until shipped, there would be nothing in between the ground and the product. And you know, they just ship it straight over like that, and there's no way of not. And a lot of the packages I got, I don't know if he has some of them, but they were just clear Ziploc bags with a writing of the color and strain and permanent marker.
Do you remember what the cost was when you on a month? What did it reach?
Monthly?
Yeah.
Monthly, I would say probably $300, $300 to $400.
Okay. Anybody have a question? You have one?
Did you overdose from it?
I did not.
You were a high user, though.
I was.
Okay, thank you.
Thank y'all for being here. We appreciate you sharing your story with us. And okay, John. Thank you.
If I could say one thing, people may say that, you know, because I'm a recovering addict, that I overindulge, but that's just a testament to how addictive and how much of like an opioid it is, because I chase those effects.
I'm not here to say take this off the street, don't let it available to anybody. My concern is it's got to be controlled, regulated. If you have addicts out there that turn to this, knowing that they do get the sensation, they do get a high, and they get away with it. Right? The whole point of our program is to get to the point where they're not reliant on something else, some type of substance they're adding into the body to get a high.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask you a question. This is, if you don't mind, Chair, I'll be recognized by you. Do you think that some individuals, you've been in this room the entire time?
Yes, sir, I have.
Do you think the people in this room that have talked about how Kratom has helped them, do you think they're addicts? You think they're that is bad for them and they shouldn't have access to it?
I do not. That's why I said I don't think it's something that needs to be off the street altogether, or not. It needs to be controlled as far as on who can use it and how they use it. When you look at the packages, nowhere does it say what to use or how much.
But to answer my question, you don't.
I don't.
You don't disagree with what they're feeling.
No, I do not.
And you don't feel like it should be taken away from them.
No, I'm not looking
Okay.
at that.
Okay.
I don't think he's making that kind of predicament.
No.
He was just saying what this young man has experienced and what he's seeing out there on the street. And we have one more, John, before you leave.
When he said he was seeing that out there on the streets, I'm sure that that's not a blanket statement. That's just based on individuals that you've come in contact with.
Yes, sir. My program has about 100 participants. I could have brought 30 people to sit in here and give this same story and talk about the side effects, the withdrawals they're going through, the reason they turn to this product versus a product that I can test for. So, and
we have one more, John.
yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. Thank you both for being here, and I appreciate you sharing your story. And I appreciate the perspective there of making sure. Yeah, I appreciated the perspective of not outright banning, but how do we make sure to?
Right.
So what clicked in my brain when you said that, and I appreciate the idea that use of kratom does not equate to addiction, but that it becomes a tool through which addicts might use, right? And so,
yes.
how do you guys currently control or decentivize use of alcohol for the addicts that you work with?
Right. Part of our program and part of the day reporting centers throughout the entire state is they cannot take anything in their body that is minor mood altering. Alcohol is a legal substance, but part of our rules and policies, part of the program, is they cannot consume any alcohol. The kratom falls in the category of anything that's minor mood altering because it does impact on that.
Right.
So it is against the policy for the program to use it. Once they're out of the program, it's not against being under supervision, but it's under a treatment side. They cannot take this product.
Right.
And there is sanctions involved when people do start using it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Leonard, and I can't make out the last name, so you'll have to tell me. Rada.
Thank you for having me. Let me speak.
Thanks for being here.
I started taking kratom after a car accident, and I have rheumatoid arthritis. My doctor prescribed several drugs. The last one left me like a zombie, basically. I couldn't function. I slept all the time. I actually slept while I was driving. So a friend of mine told me about kratom. So I started taking kratom, and it was definitely a life-changing experience. I got my life back. I was able to open up a shop, which is actually a smoke shop. Now I sell kratom to a lot of customers. Several are military. They do use it for depression. I have other people that are my age that use it because of the pains that they have. That's basically all I wanted to say. A lot of them said, please have a word for us at this council meeting. So that's why I'm here, because a lot of them couldn't make it because it's in the middle of the day. You know, some of them are nurses and other things like that.
A question from the senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you again for being here. How does it work on arthritis?
It works great on arthritis. I have a very productive life now. I do exercise, I run some, and of course I run my shop, and it works great.
Okay, thanks.
We have another question from Representative Jones.
Yes. How long have you been using it?
I've been using it probably about 5 years now. I do take breaks because I don't.
About 5 years?
About 5 years.
Okay. And are you waking up in the morning, that's the first thing you got to do is just grab your kratom? Or
No.
Are you addicted, or are you just
No.
obsessed? You have to have your kratom.
No.
I mean, are you
Absolutely.
sure you're not hooked on it?
No, I can go days without it. I do take like some CBD or something else.
Okay, thank you.
And take off.
Thank
A break.
Have you noticed any change in any of your customers that use it?
They're all happy. They don't have the pain that they had. And I have a lot of customers. I probably have about 30 people come in a day that buy kratom.
Okay.
You know, it's not basically just a smoke shop. I would say it's more of a kratom shop.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Laura Jordan. Laura, don't forget this young man right here with his pen.
First, thank you all for your time and thank you all for being here. My name is Laura Jordan. I live in Woodstock. I'm 49 years old. 5 years ago, I was homebound. I was unable to move without using a walker or a cane for assistance. My doctors had pretty much written me off and said there was nothing more they could do for me and turned me over to pain management. And I was basically on hospice levels of fentanyl and morphine. I weighed 250 pounds. I couldn't move. I couldn't function. I have bone deformities in my feet that are not going to get better. I've had one surgery. I have at least 2 more upcoming. I have compound fractures in my spine. I have degenerative disc disease. I have osteoarthritis, osteoporosis, sciatica, spinal stenosis. I have the diagnosis and medical proof, documentation, x-rays, MRIs, CAT scans, everything to back all this up. And my doctors pretty much said they were about to order me a wheelchair and suggested that my mother look into assisted living facilities for me to go to at the age of 45. A friend of mine told me about Kratom. I was very skeptical, especially with the amount of opiates that I had taken, and it didn't do anything other than make me not function. So I started taking it 3 years ago. Within a month, I was walking on my own without assistance. I've been able to get my life back. I'm now the adoptions coordinator for a licensed nonprofit. And I'm a grandma. I can help my kids. You know, I'm a mom. I'm a good daughter again. I can take care of myself. I don't need somebody to help me. And I attribute that to being able to use Kratom.
Any questions? Mr. Jones.
Yes, ma'am. You have any, since you've been taking it that long a period of time, what's the big difference between that, taking Kratom, and when you're on the opioids?
My tolerance always increased with the opioids. I take the same amount of Kratom now as I did when I started 3 years ago. I've never had to increase my dose. Once I started very small, and once I got to the dose that allowed me to, you know, walk and, you know, ambulate like a normal human being should be able to, I never had to increase it past that.
Is your mom here?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We have one more. No, 2 more, I'm sorry.
Okay.
You said you live in Woodstock. I live in Woodstock. What nonprofit are you the adoptions coordinator for?
I'm the adoptions coordinator for Per Nation Cat Alliance.
Wonderful.
We're a local cat rescue.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much for being here.
One more. Representative May.
Help me with your dosage. How much are you taking? Do you make a tea?
No,
like
I take powdered leaf. Like you have heard some people say, it tastes absolutely horrific. It's it just tastes gross. So somebody had told me that that chocolate cut the taste of it. And so I take about, 2 teaspoons, 3 to 4 times a day. And I use a little cappuccino frother and mix it in some chocolate milk, and it's very easy to take that way. Okay. But no, I don't make a tea. I don't take extracts or tinctures or anything like that. I just take the pure powdered leaf.
Good.
And I also want to say that I do, where the company I get mine from tests theirs as well. There are multiple places that sell it that do offer documentation of the testing that they do.
Somebody else said that.
So,
Thank you.
I don't know why it is, but I've always heard if it tastes good, it was bad for you, and if it tasted terrible, it was good for you. I hadn't figured that out yet. Now, I want to take a stab at this, Diane. Duquette? I got close. Thanks for being here, Diane.
My name is Diane Duquette. I am Laura's mother. I can attest to what we lived through and what I lived through that was a nightmare when she was on opioids, prescribed by physicians. The amount of morphine and fentanyl that she took would have killed most people, and I thought many times she was going to die. She was bedridden. She was 100 pounds overweight. She could not function in life, and she was ready to give up on living. When we found Kratom, it changed not only her life, but our whole family's life. She has a son, she has a grandson, and I cannot tell you what Kratom has meant to our family. I've watched her when she was on the pain management. She couldn't not only function physically, she couldn't function mentally. I mean, she just could not, she might as well not have been here. I can tell you now, she does more chores around the house to help me that I never thought I'd see my daughter be able to live a normal life. And she now lives a normal life, has a job, is a good mom to her son and her grandson, and she's a good roommate to me. And it's nice to have my daughter back. Do you have questions?
You have any questions? No questions?
I will say one thing.
Okay.
I have really bad arthritis, so she convinced me to try taking the Kratom. You were speaking of arthritis. I have taken it at night, and it does help the arthritis, and it allows me to sleep without pain.
Okay. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Next, we have Curtis Hobbs.
Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here. I don't have anything really prepared. I just wanted to say I was in a car wreck about 11 years ago. I was prescribed methadone for the better part of 10 years. Took 30 milligrams a day. Hated being on it. Did not like anything about it. But it was the only thing that helped my back out and helped me get rest at night and be able to go to work every day. And this was the summer of 2017, last year. My doctor decided he couldn't prescribe it anymore. Not exactly sure. The laws changed, so he pushed me over to pain management clinic, which was just ridiculously expensive. Drug test, all that stuff. Insurance didn't cover the drug test, which was like $260 each time. And I'd taken Kratom way back when I first had my car crash, a little bit, and kind of found it again. And maybe 3 months later, I was off methadone 3 months later. And this was over a year ago. And as far as you guys seem curious about dosing and all that, at the time I'd capsulate it, loose leaf, no extract or anything, and I would take about 6 tablets maybe twice a day when I was first getting off the methadone, and maybe 2 months later I was down to like 3 tablets twice a day, and now I still have back pain, and I don't take it every day. I take it when I really need it, and I just toss it back and wash it back. I don't make tea or anything. I'm way too lazy. And I take about 1/4 teaspoon to 1/2 teaspoon, always weigh it out, which I think is like 1/2 gram to 1.5 grams, something like that. And being off methadone is such a relief. I mean, I didn't tell any of my friends or family that I was doing it. They just started to say, man, you look good. Your new girlfriend's helping you out, this and that. And like, well, I've been with her for 4 years. She's nice, but I don't think she's the reason, I'm able to get around and I smile more. Like, it's the Kratom, you guys. Like, please tell other people about it. 'Cause I have other family members addicted to hydrocodone and whatnot, that, just don't really see any other way out. And God, like, the relief. Like, I thought I was going to be addicted to methadone forever. I really did. Because it was so controlling and, like, God, the feelings. And to talk about waking up and wanting it in the morning, that stuff couldn't function. I mean, I would just be the most terrible person for the first 2 hours after I woke up until that methadone got into my system. So I started taking the Kratom, so much better. And I didn't feel like, oh, God, it's been 5 hours since I took Kratom. No. It was like, oh, my back pain's going back. Maybe I'll take some. But, this was over a year ago. And now, I take it maybe 2 or 3 times a week.
And if you don't mind me asking, your average cost per month?
Per month?
For the Kratom?
Let's say if I was to take the 1/4 teaspoon to 1/2 teaspoon, to say if I took it 3 times a day, which I don't, $10, $15, something like that.
Per month?
Yeah.
Versus with the methadone?
Oh, man. At least $150 just for the doctor, $260 for the drug test, And the methadone's cheap, so it's like $10 for the actual drug, but to actually get it, over $300 a month. So
Okay.
huge difference. You know, it's a difference of like half a week's of work, not going to that ridiculous stuff anymore. So,
Okay.
so thank you guys.
Any questions? No? Thank you for sharing
Thank
your
you for
story.
time, of course.
Cameron Ocon?
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Cameron Ocon, and I'm 38 years old and a lifelong Georgia resident and a stay-at-home mom to 3 beautiful children. I came here today to give my brief testimony about how much Kratom benefits my life. I have always battled depression, and I tried pharmaceuticals, but prescription medication made me feel very outside myself. So I was constantly trying to self-medicate in one way or another. I didn't want to be a criminal or an addict. All I wanted was to feel normal, to be able to smile and laugh with my children, and to be able to fight the darkness enough to do what needed to be done in life. I found Kratom 3 years ago. Since that time, I have been able to be fully present for my kids and have not touched illegal substances. I don't drink, and I even stopped smoking cigarettes, which was a 25-year habit. I've never felt happier or healthier. Kratom helps me effectively manage the symptoms of my depression and the fatigue that often comes along with it. I take it 3 times a day, and I prefer plain leaf powder over extracts. I spend no more than $45 a month from the trusted online sources that test their products for mold, heavy metals, and harmful bacteria. In 3 years, I have never received bad Kratom or gotten sick because the vendors I use follow AKA guidelines for safety protocol. Kratom has truly changed my life for the better. I now live life on life's terms. I'm no longer jealous of normal people. I am normal. Thank you for your time.
We have any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing your story. David Smith?
Hello, and thanks for being here and letting us speak today. I'm a resident of Bartow County, a retired analytical chemist who believes in scientific evidence and principles and not hearsay. I take small amounts of Kratom each day for several conditions that I have. These are aches and pains, anxiety, and also irritable bowel syndrome. I've taken many of the prescribed drugs and medications over the years with little relief. Kratom has worked better than any of these, with no bad side effects, only good side effects. I'm in my 70s. I take good care of myself. I'm healthy. I believe in fitness and being able to be careful about what I put into my body. And as a chemist, I want to make one point. Kratom is leaves. It's like tea. There's only a small amount of active ingredient in it. It's like comparing coffee grounds to caffeine. I take 10 grams of Kratom a day, more or less, but only a tiny amount of that, I'm sure, is the active ingredient. I have no idea what the percentage is, but I bet it's in the milligrams. As for opiate addiction, this is my experience. I've taken opiates several times when I've had different surgeries. In my recent surgeries, after I've taken Kratom, I've noticed that there was like no euphoria associated with the painkillers that the doctor gave me, which says it's probably a good drug for that. I believe that making this substance illegal would be an incorrect move. It has just very mild side effects or effects whatsoever. It doesn't make you high, drunk, stoned, any of those things. And I think that most of the negative information around there associated with it was because of other factors not associated whatsoever with the Kratom. I do believe that it does need to be controlled so there's not a problem with insecticides and other pathogens that are in the material. So I guess my time's up.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Since your field as a chemist, any ideas on what amount of this might harm a child, or could it harm a child?
Well, I
And
mean,
have you done any
we
research?
had a gentleman here a few minutes ago that was taking massive quantities of the material, and it didn't kill him. I don't know. I don't think I think it would take a lot. I think just, eating a bunch of leaves, I don't think that could really happen with a child.
But
It's terrible, yeah.
but I think the issue might not be just the leaves, is what we're seeing coming through the providers, whether it be the stores or however they get it, the capsules. Not everybody's testing, it seems like.
It needs to be like, was it St. John's wort, or a lot of these different herbs that they sell. I think there's some requirements for edibles. I really don't know what they are, but the way it's sold now, it's not sold as an edible. I figure what they say on the different websites when you buy it, but it's not controlled as something that you eat. It needs to be controlled as something that you could eat and put in your body.
Okay. Any questions? No? Thank you so much. Patrick Newberry. Thanks for being with us, Patrick.
Well, thank all you for taking time off during these holidays to be here and listen to our stories. We very much appreciate it. I've just been an occasional Kratom user for about a decade. I've known the whole gamut of other users, from opioid users to corporate attorneys who just happen to use some in the evening. I often use it more just to focus in the evening when I'm reading or studying. Small amounts, 2 to maybe 3 grams most. So in terms of the cost, it'd be very low. In fact, I'm totally amazed that I've calculated based on the cost of he gave, that would be like around 3.5 ounces a day, which is, I don't know how I could ever do that. I'd throw up. But anyway, I've just known a slew of people who have used it in their lives, used it carefully. I'm more in, just the leaves, no, things that are derived from it, but the natural leaves in their own are not going to kill you, even a young child. So I do like it to know that it's pure, and in that case, but I do worry about overregulation too, in terms of raising the cost to where it becomes prohibited, whereas now at least it's a reasonable cost. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. No questions. Is it Joel? How do you pronounce your last name? You're next. Thank you, Joel.
I had to chop this down due to the time limits. Special thanks to you all for being here today. Appreciate you taking the time to hear us, afford us the opportunity. I do hope that we will not just be heard, but that our sentiments will be upheld and fought for by those of you that our great state has elected to do just that. I would also like to thank you for the effort that you've put in thus far in researching the topic. I know that there's a lot that goes into that too. Excuse my nervousness. I'm not a dynamic orator, but I'll do my best. My name is Joel Pearson. I'm a resident here in Georgia. I currently reside in Athens. I work for an Atlanta-based engineering firm as a road and bridge construction inspector. So I literally work every day to build a better, safer Georgia. 15 years ago, excuse me, I meant to cut that part out because I know we didn't have time. Excuse me. Okay, I think I see what happened. Let me just first say I do have a bias against our very broken healthcare industry, specifically pharmaceuticals. I've experienced a broken family a broken home and a childhood of confusion due to the abuse of prescription pharmaceuticals. My father suffered from a back injury and was given prescription drugs to manage his pain. What began as a legitimate need eventually became an addiction and led him down a dark path of substance abuse. This destroyed his marriage, our home, and our family. After about 20 years, he turned his life back to Christ. He overcame his addiction and remarried my mother. But what does this have to do with Kratom? Well, I also have a back injury. I suffer from herniated disc and a pinched nerve between my third and fourth vertebrae, and it's very painful at times. I refuse to be dependent upon traditional pain management, prescription opioids, or others, because I know that they've destroyed the lives of millions. That's it? I'm still in the first paragraph. Oh my goodness. Well, let me see here. Let me just. Without it, honestly, there have been days where I would not have been able to get out, get in my truck and get out of my truck just to go to work. It's helped me in that way, and it's also. I haven't experienced any negative side effects. A lot of good side effects, like has already been said, but it's benign as a cup of coffee. I don't endorse or believe in any abuse of anything or any addictions. I think that we should all control that about ourselves. But it's not something I've experienced. I don't take it every day. I don't crave it. I don't need it. I take it when I feel the pain, when I need relief in that way. But it's not something as he described, and good for you, help you overcome your addiction, but that's obviously a very extreme case. That's not the norm among Kratom users. So I'm out of time. But. We have one question. Okay.
I know you hear us ask about the dosage. Tell me, I understand that you're using it on an as-need basis.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you use a tea? Or do you put it in a capsule, or what do you find
I can't stand the taste
beneficial?
of this stuff. I usually just take the loose leaf powder, dump a teaspoon on my tongue, swish it around, and swallow it, and then chase it down with some juice or something. It's a little sweeter. But a teaspoon works perfect for me. I've played around with it a little bit. If I took too much, I'd get nauseated. And let me say, to address your concern earlier about what amount would be perhaps harmful to children or anyone, and I believe that it's a substance that if you take too much, you will vomit. Before it is able to cause any harm to the body, your body will reject it. That's what I experienced when I was trying to find the proper dosage. Was sometimes I get nauseated and I tone it down until I found the right dosage. So that answers your question.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you all.
I have one for you. Since you use it just on occasional, once you take it, how long does it take before it helps your issues that you have?
15, 20 minutes. Works great, yeah. I mean, there's nothing else you can take that works that fast.
And one of the other things when you was talking about you take so much you would vomit, but my concern would be what might happen to a child if they took too much of it and before they did get to that point. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we're trying to find out.
Yes, sir, and I understand the concern. I have two children. A third one's on the way. And
Congratulations.
Thank you. I definitely would keep it out of their reach, just like any other supplement or medication, anything like that. Yeah, which, by the way, those kill thousands of people a year. We're not having meetings to ban Tylenol,
yeah,
ibuprofen. But
just a common sense type.
Exactly. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have anything? Thank you, sir.
Thank you all very much.
Don Hoppy?
That's correct.
Ah, good.
That's very rare.
I think I may have got that right because years ago, Hopalong Cassidy was one of my favorite westerns.
All right. Yes, I'm Don Hoppy. I reside in Decula since 2002. I want to thank y'all for being here. It's a tough day to get down here, but we're here. So anyhow, I don't really have a whole lot to add. I just want to say back in 2015, I had an ACDF done on my neck. That's where they yank your head back.
take out the bad discs, put in some synthetic ones, and 5 plates and 10 screws later, I'm all set to go. I was prescribed Percocet, I guess routine, and this was back in the summer of 15. Come February of 2016, I think this was going on, Georgia was debating on whether to schedule it or not back at that time, and I heard about it on the news. That's the first I'd heard about Kratom. So I knew that at that time in February, I was still taking the Percocet. I'd grown quite fond of it. I didn't really need it anymore because, you know, it's been 9 months since my surgery. Well, I heard about Kratom, so I got hold of some and started taking that. And I could have renewed my Percocet prescription, but because of the Kratom, I didn't have to. So obviously I still take Kratom today, not for pain, for the focus, you know, the extra energy. One thing I really like about it is that I'm cold-natured. I don't like cold weather. I hate winter. And I used to keep the house temperature at 77. Now I keep around 68. There's something about Kratom that warms me up inside, so that's my take. So.
Any questions? No? Thank you, sir.
All right.
Appreciate it. We got one more. Eric? Heck, I just wanted to make sure. That's it.
All right. Thanks, guys, for being here. My voice is shaking a little bit. I guess I'm nervous.
Well, that's okay, Eric. Everybody else used more than 2 minutes, so you got 15 seconds. No, just kidding.
All right. So I guess my adventure with Kratom started about 4 years ago as a way to get off of hydrocodone from a mountain biking. So when I was 24, almost 25, I crashed a mountain bike. I was probably doing about 25 going down a mountain. 3 surgeries, I had a concussion. I woke up in the hospital. My friend told me how jacked up my wrist was. So it was pretty bad. I have chronic pain from it, and I take Kratom every day for it. It's allowed me to buy a house. So it's allowed me to work. So I get through the day of work. I bought a house. I have a girlfriend of 4 years. Basically, my life is awesome. So, and I bought a house where I wanted to buy a house, not where I had to. So, you know, just it gets me to. I work. That's what I use it for. Get through pain, have a job.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Do you feel that that there's that desire there to maybe use it more often than you would want to? Does it affect you that way, or
no,
or just as needed?
When my pain starts to come back, or when I know that there's going to be bad pains, like the weather really affects me, then I'll take another dose. So.
And how long does it take that to affect you once you take that dose?
It's sometimes up to an hour.
Okay.
Usually 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I take 3 grams before I go into the office, and which is about 8:30. I take another 3 grams at lunchtime, and then when I go home, I'll take it, and then before bed. So I think I'm about 12 to 18 grams a day.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Any comments?
First of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Chair, for holding this meeting, because when we talked last, and I wanted to hear from the community, those who use it or touches it, and based on personal experience. I thank you, Mr. Chair, both chairs, for having this third meeting, because I think the public now has truly had a chance to make a comment. I did ask Mr. Chair at the last meeting to get copies of the autopsies from the ones that was reported by the GBI. I have copies of them. I've given each member a copy of it. Also, Mr. Chair, I had attached to that, I had a doctor, a PhD, to look at this, and her name's escaping. It's coming to me for just a second. I got so many notes over here, but she looked at them and the autopsy reports, and if you look at it, Mr. Chair, I think you'll see where, looking at the case, I think there were 6. One person, and by the way, the GBI report got it right in terms of kratom not being the primary cause of death or cause of death. If you look at it, most of them had unquantified amounts of nitroguanine in them. One person was drowned. Another person, if you just go through it, you can see yourself. Another person was in a car accident. Another one had a broken foot that was in a 2-car accident. Another one had an enlarged heart. Another was found dead at a treatment facility for methane. And by the way, methane is on the list of 2015 and 16, 17 as one of the top 3 killers or causes of death. So I just wanted to say, Mr. Chair, in terms of this hearing was to help get more accurate information out, because it was reported that these deaths in Georgia were due to kratom, and it's, according to these reports, it's just not the case. And so everybody can look at it for themselves and make their own judgment, but facts are stubborn. And I do want to look at, there's not a single report of anything, and I'm very protective of children. There was nothing about anybody in here under the age of 18. But obviously, like anything else, if a kid get access to anything, shoe polish, a kid can inhale. And I have a confession. I am addicted to coffee. I wake up, I have to have it. I'm addicted to Raisin Brands. I have to have it, among other things. And I don't mean to make light of this, but Mr. Chair, I'm just glad that, and I told you all that I do use kratom. I've never had any side effects but good side effects. But I appreciate you and Senator Mullis and the other committee members, Michael and others, and Karen, my colleague, for providing a forum where we can get accurate information, hearing from both sides. And I think as a result of that, we all are much more educated. And you said it right earlier, keep an open mind. And I think we all have kept an open mind. So, Mr. Chair, I want to thank you and the public at large, because one of the biggest problems was that there was this misinformation about kratom. And now that we have more facts out there and we can look at actual autopsy reports and see what, when people die, what was found in the analysis. And so, by the way, that Professor Dr. Jane Babin, who did a preliminary review of these, and she's going to get a more detailed report in terms of the cause of death, but she was also in agreement with the GBI in terms of their assessment that there was little to information, or if not any information, to determine the cause of these deaths due to kratom. So thank you for letting me, Mr. Chair, be a part of this discussion too.
Thank you. Senator Shirley. I got to thank Ms. Shirley and staff, legislative staff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you all so much. Y'all were amazing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want to thank you for allowing me to sit in the House Study Committee today. This was not a joint study committee. We had a House one and a Senate. We just kind of ran them together, except for today. My other member is in a ravished area of Hurricane Michael, Senator Burke, so he couldn't come. But anyway, I just want to thank you, and thank you for the testimonies today. If I could take this liberty to ask by a show of hands what our audience may think. For example, do you think that we should have maybe an age limit, like 18 or under shouldn't be able to get this? Are you for that? Is that okay? All right. What about every ingredient in that package should be listed? Everybody okay with that? Okay. See, those are the 2 easy things right there. All right. And I don't want to go any further, but I think those are 2 simple things that should be a part of this at least. Anyway, thank you for your participation today.
What's the next procedure? Do you have a meeting just with we're going to try to decide where you're headed with a bill, or?
We'll have a report.
Okay, the report. Okay, but you're not going to do anything amongst ourselves. or just put it, okay. I think my concern is if we can address the issues that Senator Mullis brought up, which I think are excellent, what will be the consequence if whoever sells, if they aren't following law? I would like for us to talk about that a little bit, and I would like some teeth because of children. I think about children that have ADD and ADHD or any kind of compulsive behavior. Would this be a better choice? I think everybody in this room would say yes. FDA, somebody's going to have to do that bigger than I am. But I want it to be safe. And I would also like for everybody to think about where, what the consequence would be. I don't think we need to fill the jails up with Kratom users. I think that's a little silly, but thank you for letting me sit on your committee too, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. I'm not a Kratom user. I'm certainly not a medical practitioner. This is one of those committee assignments where you get notified and you go, I don't know what that is. So I have been enjoying just learning. I do tend to be a don't regulate it, let it happen guy, but I totally agree with you, Senator Mullis. I think those are two extremely reasonable approaches. The more I've gotten to learn about this, I think that there is to me, this is a consumer protection piece. It's to make sure that you know what you're consuming. I think that that's a very fair role of government. And so I think if we walk that line, we're in a very, I think it's a wise route to go. And I agree. I'd prefer to not see us fill jails with people who who may have abused Kratom. I think that that's probably the wrong route to walk as well. So I think making sure that there's some kind of teeth in the law, but making sure that we're not also filling our jails with this is probably the right route to figure it out. So thank you. And thank you guys for taking the time. I know you guys thanked us for coming out on a holiday week. I want to thank you guys for coming out on a holiday week and coming out in the rain. This was a day I don't think anybody wanted to hit the road, but you made it, so thank you.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Following what Representative Caldwell said, it's really interesting on this issue. I'd say 9 people out of 10, I'd say, well, I'm on a Kratom study committee. They goes, what's Kratom? I don't think many people are aware of what it is, good or bad, right or wrong. I just don't think it's one of those things people know much of yet. So I'm sure that'll change in the future.
As a chairman, I guess I get the last word. First time, yeah. Be quiet, hon. It's good to have my wife and my great-grandchildren that was here with us a little bit earlier. I hope they're not roaming the aisles. But anyway, our concern is we learn more about Kratom. There's still a lot to learn, and we see that with the diversity of the ones who use it and the ones who has helped, the ones who has hurt. And I believe every one of you, the good and the bad, we know that it happens. I went and met with a doctor friend of mine in Augusta, Georgia, to get their concerns or get their thoughts on Kratom. What's Kratom? They never heard of it, just as we said, because they didn't show up. Maybe in abuse. But after studying, she comes back, she said, something needs to be done about this. So we see that from our medical. We hear different stories from the medical. It's different opinions after they do their research. Some of them have more time and are more familiar with the product than a lot of us are. And so we're learning more. Some doctors have concerns, some doctors don't. Another concern is the ability to detect. And I've talked to several now, and that what I hear from the streets is that it's becoming I don't want to call it a drug, but it's becoming a choice out on the street because it's hard to detect. And a lot of people don't have that capability, as long with some of the synthetic drugs that's out there as well. So that's a concern. Do I think it can be abused? Yes, I do. You better believe I do. Quantity? We don't know what the quantity needs to be, do we? I know when I look at my aspirin bottle, my Tylenol bottle, it tells me I need to take, if I'm this age, I need to take 1 or 2 capsules, or every 6 hours, every 8 hours, or so on. Can you misuse that? Yes, you can. Senator Mullis says I take 3. No, I just take 2 when I need it. The other thing is the problem that we are seeing is we have a lot of folks that have the ADHD and the PTSD and a lot of the SDs and things, and it's serious. It's not something to laugh about, I know. But what I do know, and I've heard this from the people who have done it, is a lot of our young people and our children, if I need something done on my phone, I get my grandchild to say, can you fix this for me? But our children have access to computers now that give them so much information that it's unbelievable, and they can call it up. There are those young people out there who are going online and reading what ADHD is and these different things, its issues and problems online, and then they'll go tell the doctor, this is the symptoms I have. What can you give me for it? Adderall's one of those things. And so we get a generation that's hooked on medicines that's given out daily. Common sense has got to play into this when we reach our mind, make our minds up on what we suggest. We can only suggest. We can't do nothing other than can't make it a law, but we can make the suggestion and send it up to where some things can be done. I don't think we can make it a law, can we, Senator? Can we, Stuart? Not today, okay. But you understand what we're trying to reach. It's just a common sense thing. And Lord, the last thing I want is my great-grandchild, your child, overdosing or taking too much. Maybe they don't overdose, but maybe they take too much of something and they do bodily harm to themselves because they don't know what they're doing. That's our concerns. And that's why we're having this meeting. And thank each and every one of you who came out to be with us, all those who chose to speak, and those of you who were scared to speak. Thank you. But at this time, I would like to thank, couldn't do it without her. She is our right arm, keeps us straight. If I call her, she'll say, you need to be doing this. You're supposed to have done that. And that's Miss Shirley Spencer. Thank you, Miss Shirley, for all your help. Let's give her a round of applause. I'm moving to your office. And from our Legislative Council, Stuart Morelli, thank you for being with us too, sir. Also, I couldn't do without him because he kept me straight on these buttons on this machine. My good friend and our policy analyst, David Hartman. Let's give him a round too. And Mr. Stewart. And then all of my friends, Senator Mullis, Representative Mathick. Did I say it right, Karen? I'm close. Karen, he says just say Karen. Representative Jones and Representative Caldwell. And thank y'all so much for being with us. Good day and God bless.